Good evening. This is a special edition of GBN's Beyond the Headlines. Odette Campbell, the original role model. My name is Kenroy, Baptiste. Thank you so much for tuning into the broadcast. We welcome viewers on GBN Television, K105 FM, as well as, of course, by way of our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Thank you so very much once more. This evening, we are remembering the life and honoring the legacy of Odette Campbell, former Managing Director of the Grenada Broadcasting Network. We've assembled members of a panel who have interacted with her on various levels during her 30-plus years in media and communications. And they are here to share their experiences relative to the individual and professional she was. With me on set are Nicole Humphrey-Best, former programming and production manager at the Grenada Broadcasting Network. Prior to this role, she served as news director at GBN. And Derek James, former Consul General to New York and Toronto. He once headed the Office of Diaspora Affairs in Grenada. And of course, he worked at Radio Free Grenada during the revolutionary period. Okay, all right. Joining us via Zoom are Tricia Campbell, former reporter, anchor, producer, and host at GBN. You may remember her as Tricia Rubin during her time at the network. Currently, she is the manager of the physics department at the University of Central Florida, in charge of faculty relations. Listen to this. She also presents the news every Saturday on CRR Network, a radio station in Orlando, Florida. Next, Orisha Joseph, former reporter, weekend anchor, and producer at GBN. At present, she is the executive director of Sustainable Grenadines Incorporated. And Johnson John Rose, strategic communications advisor for the government of St. Eustatius. He's a former head of news at the Caribbean news agency Cana Radio, as well as a former communication specialist at the Caribbean tourism organization CTO. Welcome, everyone. Good to see all of you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us to be with you this evening.
Yes, thank you so very much. All right, so we're going to start the conversation, and this question goes to everybody on the panel. Your initial reaction on learning about the passing of Odette Campbell. Nicole.
I knew Odette was sick. I was praying that the outcome would be different. I learned on the Saturday evening that things were not looking as good as we would have hoped it to look. But I was still hopeful. I had not given up. And around 6 o'clock on Tuesday morning, because Monday was a holiday, Tuesday morning, 6 o'clock, I got a call from one of our mutual colleagues. And the person said to me, I didn't know that Odette was sick. So I said, oh, really? So when did you find out? Well, I just learned that she's passed. I said, how do you mean? That's not making any sense. And I listened, and I hung up. And well, my husband was there at the time. He was hearing. And I just went numb, if I should put it that way. It was my way of coping with this because I wasn't ready. Odette and I had this kind of a relationship where if she did something that I considered, and I have to say this word, stupid, I could fight with her over it. I mean, we had lots of fights. I think we enjoyed fighting with each other. And this was an occasion where I dealt with it in my mind as though this was something stupid. This is a joke that has gone too far, and I need to give her a few choice words. But she was not there to give a few choice. So I went around that day just I shut it out. I just shut it out. Everybody who reached out to me to say, accept my sympathy or to ask a question, I just shut it out. I just listened, had not much to say, I shut it out. I think I've probably still have it shut out in a sense because I don't know. I guess I'm still grappling with it. It's not fashionable, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so I'm still processing. Let's put it this way. I'm still processing.
Right. Derek.
Yes. It was normally I would get up early to go to the beach every morning, about 5:30. Get ready to go to the beach. But that morning I decided not to go to the beach because I wanted to do some work in the yard. So I got up a little late and I picked up the phone about 6:15, and a friend from New York sent me a text saying, "Did you hear the news? Odette Campbell died, but I want you to verify it for me." So I was like, "Odette, no." So I called a mutual friend of Odette and I in New York to ask her. And she said, yes, Odette died. She just got the news last night or early in the morning. And then I tuned in to GBN and I saw Innocent. And then sadness hit me. And so I called some other friends and they confirmed that, yes. And then I called GBN and expressed my sympathies to the staff and so on. So it was shocking, to tell you the truth, because I mean, yes, I knew she was sick. You know, I spoke to her while she was in New York, phone call, you know, when she was, but couldn't believe it was the end of it. But the friend told me that yes, the weekend, as Nicole said, the weekend was a tough weekend for her, and they was expecting it. Yeah.
Tricia, what say you?
I'm still shocked, Kenroy. I still can't believe that my mother, every morning on my way to work, we laughed, and as usual, the last I spoke with her was via text the Wednesday, as usual.
Okay, so Tricia, we have to, I understand from my director, your audio isn't clear at this time. So we'll come back to you in a moment. If it's on your end, we'll give you some time to sort of do some figuring out. We'll come back to you in a while, okay? Let's go to Orisha Joseph.
Hi, good night to everyone, and very good to see colleagues like Nicole and Tricia and Kenroy, yourself, and Johnson. And I received a text message.
Orisha, you too experienced the very same issue. So, yes, we have to pause for the time being. Let's go to Johnson John Rose to find out if his audio is clear before we proceed. Yes.
Let's hope.
Yeah, likewise. So we will reestablish a connection with all three of you. In the meantime, we return to studio and engage Nicole Humphrey Best and Derek James. Right, so relative to our childhood years, now, Nicole, prior to coming on the air, you mentioned yourself and Odette Campbell, of course, attended high school, the Anglican High School together, right? What do you remember as her involvement at the level of Anglican High, the kind of student she was?
Odette and I were not in the same class. I think I was a year ahead of her, and she was always outspoken. You know, in those days, going to school in our days, being outspoken was considered as being rude. You know, she had an opinion and you were going to hear it. And even if she had to have detention, because you don't get lashes at school, but you got detention, so you had to stay in after school and do extra homework or write words or whatever it is. Even if she had to get detention, that was fine, as long as she expressed herself. that's just how she was. I mean, I knew her before Anglican High School. Her aunt and my mother were very good friends, Auntie Daphne, and sometimes on vacation when she came over to visit with her aunt and we would be there, I would see her. We did not engage much at that age, but even then, she had an opinion and she was going to say it. Auntie Daphne used to like to beat, so she would get her licks if she looked for it. Right. But it didn't matter to her. I think in that sense, we're kind of alike. If I have to do it, I will do it, and I'll get my licks, and I would say, okay, fine, it's a win-win situation. I win because I get to do what I want to do, and you win because you beat me because you figure I should not have done it, and that's fine. That's a win-win. That's how she was, even from childhood right through.
So that outspokenness was carried over into adulthood for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think she was born with that. Right. To say, yeah, that's how she was, and if I can call it unorthodox in the way she said what she had to say or do what she had to do. She was just plain and simple with it. She was just raw with it. She just got it done.
Did she show intention for media work at high school?
At that point in time, I did not see it. I did not see it. But I have colleagues who said that she was interested in media since in Anglican High School, because Hamlet and I spoke extensively about it after, we began the process in this fact that she's no longer with us. And he spoke about her expressing interest many, many years ago of wanting to be in media, even while she was at Anglican High School. And he encouraged her actually to start, because there was not an opening at GBN at the time. Well, at that time, I think it was called Radio Grenada. Yeah, or Radio Free Grenada, Radio Grenada.
Radio Grenada.
Because that was after the revolution.
Yeah, Radio
Grenada. So there wasn't an opening there then. And so he encouraged her to start off at the Informer. Actually, it was at The Voice she wanted to go, but he encouraged her to start off at the Informer. And I think he actually went with her to get her, the initiation process. And then from there, she grew and grew and grew and just continued to grow in it, because she really had that passion for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Derek, do you remember your first encounter with Odette?
I think the first encounter with her was when she was at Radio Grenada in Scott Street. Because I just finished my stint with Radio Free Grenada just after the revolution, and I used to always frequent there, because in those days the media fraternity was a close-knitted one.
Yeah.
Coming out of Radio Free, it was like a family, and so that was extended beyond after we left, because a lot of the guys like Ray Roberts and so on, they remained with the station. But I left Grenada in 86, so I was out of there. But after leaving Radio Free Grenada, I went and worked with the Ministry of Works, so during that period of time. So I got to think we would cross paths during the staying at Radio Grenada at Scott Street, but our relationship grew, over the years, and to reach to this day.
What was your first impression of her at the time?
Well, Odette, to me, she was quiet. That's how she came across, like this quiet young lady, trying to make her way. Because she's trying to find her way into the media, and she would always engage somebody to talk about certain things, your experience, what it used to do, what it was like, and so on. So I think people like Hamlet and them helped a lot on our way, Ray Roberts and so on, because in those days, remember those days you had the typewriters.
Yeah.
And being along with the newsroom, you always was fascinated by what the newsroom doing. And you had to prepare news on the beat. Yeah. And you used to have to go down to cable and wireless to pick up news, telex for the international news and so on, or regional news. So that in those days, meeting her, she was like curious, looking to find her way in media.
And always on fire.
Yeah.
Always on what you say?
Always on fire.
Always on fire.
And I like when you said that she was quiet, you saw that quiet person, that was the side of her that you sometimes saw in when we were growing up as children, when she came over by her aunt, because she never really played much with us. We would be running around and going under the mango tree and going and get golden apples and all of that. She would never play with us per se. So that it was that side. But if you stepped on her, if you interfered with her, the fire will be ignited. And she was not backing down. But that quiet side, she did have that. She did have that quiet side, that introspective side. And she kept it all her years long. Yeah, she had that fire within her. But she always found a way at some point in time, either early in the morning, in the evening, or sometimes during the day, to just regroup. She was, and I can say that because I saw it when we worked together for 5 years here at GBN. I mean, I guess later on we will talk about some of those times that we shared, but she knew how to get back within herself and just get back to equilibrium.
You know, I always remember Odette as a person, like, don't go any place where Odette will be and don't see her, because you feel you're playing, you don't see her.
Yes.
I remember in New York, she went to a church. She heard that I was going to be at this church to say a few words, and she came to church with the same friend, a same mutual friend. And so I didn't see her. She was sitting in the church by herself, and she came up and she said, "Well, you're playing, you didn't see me?" and things like that. And I'm like, I didn't see you. You know what I mean? So she was that kind of person. But she was quiet, as I said earlier. And even in the funeral, the funeral with the young man that died from me, what's his name?
Which one of them?
The camera guy.
Yes. Levi Benoit.
I remember Odette was in the church in Levi's funeral, and she was sitting in a corner by herself. And you know, it's like sometimes she move herself away from the scenery, to process what's happening around her and so on.
That was her moments for reflecting.
Yes.
Yes. So we're going to talk about her professional life, because she has done quite a bit, like literally. What I want to find out from you before I cross back to you, Nicole, let's reestablish contact with our guests by way of Zoom. Tricia, Ruben, are you there? Orisha, Joseph, are you there? Johnson, John Rose? Okay. Nothing at the moment. Okay, so I will take the leading up from my director once they're back. All right, so you started working with her at GBN, and more or less your first professional encounter with her?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. When Philo left, a vacuum was created in the newsroom. There was need for a news director. The ad went out. I was working in the administrative department then, and I had my background already in news, in broadcasting / so I was taken from administrative department and placed to head the newsroom, temporarily, of course, until they found someone. And then Odette accepted the offer. The company accepted her, and she became the news director. And I had, for the next couple of months, to kind of there was this transition from me to her, and we needed to make that transition smooth. And it was then that I believe our friendship took off. We became more than just acquaintances, just knowing of her or seeing her around. But we started to make a conscious effort to get to know each other. And during those times, we had some really rough encounters, but we also had some fun times. And to the point where our children, it was like one family. Her children would be at my house, my children would be at her house. She picks up my children from school if I'm here doing something, or I pick up her children from school, or I have both sets of children over at my house, and we're doing crazy things together, birthday parties, whatever it is. And so that's on the personal side. On the professional side, she did not stick any nonsense. If she says move the table to here, move the table to here. And if you took too long, she would just move it herself, because she was a woman that was not afraid of work. And that was one of the things I would always remember her for. She will do whatever it takes, where work is concerned, to make sure what she wants to have happen, and happen for the right reasons. So professionally, she was meticulous.
Yes, very attentive to detail.
Yes, and she knew what she wanted. When she had a vision for something, for example, if she had a vision for this set, to change this set, she would come in here, it doesn't matter what hour of the day or night, and she sizes it up, and she takes her notes mentally, and then she comes and she says, like when I was here, Nikki B, I have an idea, come. Regardless of what I'm doing. It did not matter to Odette that I was probably preparing a report for something or attending to somebody else on staff. She has this idea, and it's a fantastic idea, and she needs to express herself right now. It's a matter of emergency for her right now. So come, and then we get together. We'll talk about it, and before you know it, we would have already transformed this set, even probably sometimes before we get managerial approval. Yes. But that's the kind of person she was. She was a go-getter. Mm-hmm. Yes, it had to be done, and it had to be done, and she didn't care how long it took. She didn't care how much pain it caused. It had to be done, and it will be done. That was her.
All right, let's return to our guests by way of Zoom. Tricia, Ruben, are you there? Tricia Campbell?
Yes, I'm here.
Right, great. Audio is well at this time. So I have to ask you, what was your first encounter with Odette?
Well, I will start off by giving you this story, Kenroy. It sums up the person that Odette was. So when I was at Meaningful Television, MTV, Alan Stanford, through his company, Stanford Financial Group, invited media houses throughout the Caribbean to the inaugural flight of Caribbean Star Airlines out of Puerto Rico. Mr. Errol Maitland, deceased, assigned me as MTV's representative to cover the story. While there, I interviewed Dr. Ralph Gonzalez. And right after that, Odette came up to me and said, I'm giving you 1 week to pack your bags and come to GBN. I thought she was joking at first, right? But she said to me, Ruben, Odette Campbell did not joke. Anyway, Mr. Maitland was very good to me, and with the professional that I am, I gave him 2 weeks' notice and did as I was told. And that should tell you the kind of person she was. Very determined, a go-getter, and the word no was not an option. What Odette wants, Odette gets, and that's it.
Talk about that one. What about you, Orisha?
The first time I met Odette, I was in Singer. Odette was the general manager of Singer International Icon Distributors before. And when Odette came into Singer, the manager's office at the time was where the secretary was. So the secretary and the manager shared an office. And then one day we came to work, all the Singer staff, and we saw lumber, we saw paint, and everything. Odette built her own office upstairs in the Singer building. And everyone was like, what is going on with this mad woman? How you could just build your own office, right? And then she built her office, and she said, Orisha, you will be on accounts receivable clerk, and then you will go to the warehouse and help Nisha supervise. And that was my first encounter. And then, while she was at Singer as the manager, she said, you know what, I think you'll make a good reporter. And while I was in Singer, I was doing character graphics and also some reporting on the side in GBN. And then she was like, listen, I'm back in GBN now, so you come in and work for GBN. And like Tricia, I had to say goodbye to Singer. I did give them my notice, and then I started to work in GBN. And that was it. That was my first encounter.
Okay, I'll come back to you in a while. Let's go to Johnson John Rose, of course, former head of Caribbean News Agency Canada Radio. Your first experience.
The smile here is there is this connection with Singer being the point of departure, because my first encounter with Odette, she worked with Singer at the time. I was head of news at Canada Radio. Roll Titus was our correspondent in St. George's, and Roll was leaving to go abroad to study. And I asked him, do you know anyone who I can work with as a stringer? And he said, well, I know this Odette Campbell woman. She works at Singer. She's not a thing. She's at Singer. Okay, put her on. She and I had a conversation. I thought she had really very good potential. I said, great, we will work with you. Got her on. And that was our Singer connection until much later on. But it started with Rawl leaving and recommending that I have a chat with her. And we had a wonderful relationship after that.
What stood out to you about her, Johnson?
Oh, I've heard quite a few things here. I will go with the professional, because when she was going to GBN and became the head of news there, we were in touch rather frequently. When she had issues, ideas, she wanted to just share ideas. She wanted to get my opinion and stuff. We talked a lot about that. One thing that was obvious was that Odette, as you've heard tonight from everyone else, was one of those person where she wouldn't settle for no. She wouldn't settle for anything less than, excellence. And so you should push yourself, and I'd push her. And yes, sometimes I had to tell her a few things that she didn't like, because she had this little thing about her, and you said, no, this is rubbish. Come on, what would you say that? But in the end, what she was looking for is excellence, is to be better, is how do you do better. And when little things came up with her staff, we would talk about it, and I would say, Odette, it doesn't mean because she's doing it this way that she's wrong and you're right, that you both can be right. You realize you both can be right. She says, you'd argue, how can we both be right? Because you both can be right. Just not one way of doing things. So she always looked for other ways to get things done. And as Orisha and Tricia and the others said, no, that was not in her vocabulary at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Derek, I want to come to you for the time being. During COVID, the onset of COVID, you started working up close with Odette on a number of projects. I want you to give us a sense of some of these initiatives.
Yeah. Well, COVID time I was in Toronto, and when GBN came back on with the programming, Odette and I collaborated on a lot of the programs. A lot of times we saw programs in Toronto for COVID with psychologists, different doctors and so on. And so I used to reach out to her to join, to bring the programs live. And when she couldn't do it on TV, she would bring it on Facebook. So we did a lot of those programs. And when I returned to Grenada, when we had our wave here in Grenada, Odette and I did a lot more programs. I would give her ideas, what type of program that we could do beyond the headlines and so on. And I remember one I was telling about earlier is the one with funeral undertakers in New York. At the time I would say, Odette, people they are a little too relaxed here. They're not taking this thing seriously. So why we don't have a program that have an impact on people. And she said, what's your idea? And I said, let's do one with undertakers. And that we did. And she thought that was one of the best programs we ever had during the COVID period. And not only that, we used to have the Office of Diaspora Affairs used to have programs on Sundays with different doctors. And doctors talking about the whole idea about COVID and so on, their experience in the diaspora. And she would ensure that those programs being broadcast. If we can't get it on GBN on Sundays, then it will be on Facebook. So, a lot of times I will call and say, Nicole, don't focus on this. She said, you have to cover already. I already spoke to the technicians, and don't worry yourself. And so we did a lot of those things during COVID period. And I wanted to say, what she did, she had an impact on people's life by the programs that was broadcast to people here. A lot of people tuned into the program and so on. It was educational. And I think that her contribution must be felt.
Right. Nicole, the news and production departments generally work very closely in a media organization.
Yes.
So I imagine there were collaborations going when you were, for example, head of programming and production, and when she was news director at the time.
Yeah. Yes, we had quite a lot of collaboration. As a matter of fact, we had so much collaboration, we had a lot of head-butting with the collaboration. And I remember as I was preparing to come on the program, I remember one of the occasions when we had a head-butting session. Apart from being responsible for programming and production, I was also responsible for the maintenance of the fleet of vehicles that GBN had at the time. And I had a schedule for when they would have to go into Steels for servicing. And my schedule was published. I had no idea that the newsroom had a story that they wanted to cover. And the day before, every day we had management briefs in mornings, and I indicated that the vehicles are going in for service tomorrow. Now, when I indicate that at a management brief, I expect whoever needs vehicles the following day would indicate the same, and thereafter I would organize to get a rental or whatever it is. Sometimes I would use my own vehicle to take people on assignment. My girls management brief, and the next management brief, when we were talking about the activities for the previous day, then she decided to complain to the boss then, that was Mr. Purcell, that they could not cover this particular assignment because I put the vehicles in servicing. Listen, I was livid. I behaved myself in the management brief, but when we got downstairs to my office, and these are the things that these memories I'm going to cherish, because it was the fire in her, and I believe that she did that to, most times, let me put it this way, most times when Odette provokes me, I think it was to help me to see my deeper potential and to move beyond where I am right now, my comfort zone. And so I never backed down. I mean, we will fight. Like I said earlier, I believe we enjoyed it more than anything else. Sometimes we did it in front of staff, and staff just didn't understand why the two of us could be laughing this moment, and like this, we're arguing and quarreling and butting heads over what they may consider simple or mundane issue. But that was something about her that a lot of people did not understand. They misunderstood her like that. She had this fire, and she was passionate about life, about everything that she did, and she was looking for people around her to share that same passion. And when you didn't share that same passion, the passion turned around on you, and agitated you, if I should put it that way. And sometimes some people did not understand that, but that's just yes, who she was.
We're coming up to a break, but just briefly, Derek, you started to answer my question, Nicole. Mm-hmm. How do you think Odette was misunderstood?
I think that Odette, as the frank person, sometimes it's not what you say, but what is how you say it. And sometimes I think people misunderstood her in that regards. And she was very harsh.
Brash.
She was brash. She would say it. She was, I mean, listen, I remember one day when I did a program on Beyond the Headline, and this young man received a check. And I called, I said, how could you do this on the program? Because she was celebrating that little boy get this money. And I said, this person making that donation, people could give much more money to that. And so she would come to me and say, you can't be kidding. You're crazy. I said, no. And I said, we reasoned it out. And then she understood where I was coming from. You know, and I always feel that sometimes people don't understand where you're sitting at the time and why you make such decisions. And so that, in a sense, people will misunderstand where you're coming from. And if you think back seriously about the whole question about the GBN strike, in the days of the strike, what did I used to?
One of the strikes.
The one, I think more so I could say the last one.
Okay.
And we were talking all the time, and I would say, look, you have to understand that these people seen it one way, and you've seen it management way. I think sometimes we have to understand that, and the misinterpretation, the misunderstanding of the individual as to how they handle a situation like that. But yeah.
Okay. I want to add to that, though,
Yes.
and I know we're going to a
Yes.
break. But the question about what it is people misunderstood most about Odette is the same thing that people loved most about Odette. Her fire and her passion.
So they hate her and love her together?
Correct.
Oh my
That's
word.
what it is. If you stop to think about it, if you stop to think about it, because when she approached any situation, she approached it with fire. She approached it with the intent of conquering it, because it will not conquer her. And because of that, people just figured she was too much. But she was who she was. Because you have to understand, as Derek was saying, where she was coming from. In many respects, when I use the term where she was coming from, I'm not just talking about sitting in management. I'm talking about growing as a person, where she was coming from. She knew she had to become. Her method of becoming may not necessarily be orthodox or what we're accustomed to, because we're accustomed to sitting down and hoping that becomes us.
And she was a man's world.
Exactly, exactly. So she knew she had to fight to become. And that's what people didn't like about her. People misunderstood about her. Her fire, her passion, and her vigor.
And we will continue the conversation. Of course, when we come back, we'll get some thoughts from our guests by way of Zoom. So Tricia Ruben, we'll call you Tricia, of course, this time around, Tricia Campbell, but I'm told I can call her Tricia because nowadays I'm reading Nikitta by way of... You're telling me about Tricia, but we'll continue the conversation. Likewise, Orisha Joseph, stay there, please. Likewise, of course, Johnson John Rose. We'll be right back. This is a special edition of Beyond the Headlines. We are remembering the life and honoring the legacy of Odette Campbell. Stay with us.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
Sisson's WeatherGuard Pro. For every project, there's only one Pro.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Our upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment. As you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest, visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
Records at the traffic department shows that a total of 1,447 accidents were reported for the year 2012, which includes 3 road fatalities. 2,946 accidents were reported for the year 2022, which includes 8 road fatalities. This is a significant increase of 104%. This is alarming. When a family tragically loses a loved one, does it matter whether by means of a gun or a motor vehicle? To avoid accidents, drivers and pedestrians alike must exercise extreme caution when using the road.
Tricia. I'm told that okay, so we're back. All right, so we'll take it again from the top. Welcome back to this special edition of Beyond the Headlines. Of course, we are literally remembering the life and honoring the legacy of Odette Campbell, former managing director of the Grenada Broadcasting Network. A reminder of the guests in studio with me, Nicole Humphrey-Best and Derek James, and via Zoom, Tricia Campbell, Orisha Joseph, and Johnson John Rose. Let's go to Tricia for the time being. Tricia, prior to the program, you said to me, Kenroy, Odette and I had some run-ins, but we always worked it out. Explain that.
Well, as Nicole said, Odette was just too much, and just too much sometimes. She and I butt heads most of the time. We argue. Sometimes it went so far where I would not say nothing to her for days, other than work-related conversations. She was really stubborn and only wanted things to be done, of course, her way, the Odette way. At one point in time, I can remember Odette was so upset with me, and it got to a stage where she said, okay, you would be doing the midday radio news from now on. I was not allowed to anchor the news, the television news anymore for a period of time. Well, this just made me more upset because both of us do have a strong personality. There is even an inside joke between some colleagues and I. It's called the Battle of Throwing Shoes between Tricia and Odette. But guess what? We were good. If you know Odette, you will know that she will come back to you as if nothing happened. It's like we're moving right along. No question asked, no comment made. And I'm the same way sometimes. It was all love through the end. I could recall also, Kenroy, in my earlier days at GBN, I attended a political rally with the late Levi Benoit. And we were both verbally assaulted by some supporters at that rally. As a young reporter then, I was sort of scared, and of course, I cried. When Odette heard that I shed some tears, she called me in her office and sympathized with me. And the mama bear was in action. The news stories that followed really showed how much she cared and protected her workers during various challenges. By the way, after all that sympathizing with me, at the end she said, so Ruben, putting all jokes aside, what the XXXX do you? You have to toughen up, man. You can't be crying so all the time. Well, guess what? The next time the tears wanted to come through, I heard that same voice telling me to toughen up. So as you can see, we had our ups, we had our down, but it was all love. You know, we understood each other, and that was the most important thing.
Orisha, training of media workers was a very big deal for Odette Campbell. When you were at GBN, you benefited from several training programs, which I understand she facilitated. Can you help us understand that?
Sure. So my first training actually was with Johnson John Rolls. It was a Liat-sponsored media training in St. Martin. And from when she had told me I was going on that training, I was so scared. I was like, I don't know anything about media. Oh my God, what would I do? And it was so good. And then personally, I had trainings in Grenada with persons like Raul and other media practitioners. But with her, I remember the training was very hands-on and very direct, professionally and otherwise. And I remember when I wrote one of my first scripts and I brought it to Odette Campbell, and she said, I could get a Heinzie child to write that script better than that. So what I was like, oh my God. So I went back, get it done, and it was good. She accepted it. And then when I went home, like Tricia, I cried. I was like, oh my God, I'm not good enough for this. How can I make this work? But you know what I recognize about Odette, even having the experience with her, working with her in Singer, when Odette sees something in you, she will light that fire under you. So while you get that professional training, you also get to deal with the real world, and she will tell you exactly how it is. And if you're willing to not take how she says it, and I know it has to do with different personalities. And I think because I was a more introverted, shy person, I was not ready to go to battle with Odette like Nicole or Tricia. I was not going to go to battle. I would say yes and put my tail between my legs. So with her, I think when she sees something in you, she will really dig at that and really try to draw that expertise that you think you do not have, because she had the eye for talent. She had the eye for good people. She had the eye for people that she felt could really improve and get to the next stage of their life. And that is what I really, really admired about her. And if you ask my staff members now where I work, Odette's name is called over and over and over in that office, because she really helps me to be the professional that I am today. And GBN, she did not talk to me for 2 weeks because she was upset. But at the same time, she was very happy and proud.
Okay. Johnson, there are those who say Odette Campbell meant well, notwithstanding how she delivered her messages.
Well, a few things. First of all, I recall that training in St. Martin and Orisha coming in, and I don't recall if I mentioned it to her, but I certainly said it to Odette and to other people. I saw Odette in Orisha very much, yeah, as the way she behaved, the mannerism, the dedication, how hard she was working to make sure she did well during that training. So I saw Odette in Orisha in there. Now, as to whether it misunderstood or the way she meant, Odette was brusque. She was brash. She was blunt. But I think a lot of it was this facade. She had this facade of this really very tough, bad sort of. No, she wasn't. She really wasn't. Inside was someone who was easy, soft, the lamb. And I heard Tricia mention the mama bear sort of person. That's what she was. But sometimes to get the message across, she really had to put on the facade. It was not much of a facade. And there was this thing about this human in Odette as well. I recall Nikitta was someone else who did one of my training workshops, and she was working at this, place in Sotiers, I think this radio station was like, you're wasting your time there. And there was an opening at GBN. I rang Odette, said, I know this young reporter, and she has tremendous potential. I know you've got an opening. Will you give her a listen? Just give her a listen. Try it if you like her. And she said, no problem. Give her a listen. She liked her. She hired Nikitta. And I know, again, that brash, brusque, blunt Odette, it was hard for Ricky. Sometimes she didn't stay terribly long, but they came back and formed a bond that was such that she remembered. Ricky keeps telling me, it's Mother Odette sort of thing. She never stops. Every single day she would check, she would send a note, she would check in on me, she would do all of that. So while you think she's misunderstood, a lot of it was just this facade. She put forward this face of, I'm really very bad girl. No, she wasn't.
Cole and Derek, because following a passing, there was a staff meeting, I was part of it, and Janelle McDonald, who has since been appointed in the interim as the Chief Operating Officer of GBN, she said, I want you all to know that notwithstanding how she delivered her words to people, Odette was a softie at heart.
It's the truth. It is the truth. We don't cry, at least so we say. We don't cry. But Odette, when something, we used to come away from the office and we would go and talk about it. And we don't cry, okay? We just gonna be sad for a few moments, then we just shake it off. We're big girls, you gotta face the fire, let's go. We do whatever we needed to do, whether it's share a lunch together, go for a walk on the beach, or just go for a drive in some place in nature, and that was her thing, nature. Anytime she needed to clear her head or to rearrange ideas ideas in her head or to concretize ideas, she found nature. It was therapeutic for her, and I used to enjoy that. I never went with her because sometimes she went very early in the morning to walk, and but when she came back and we would talk about it, I enjoyed listening to her talk about nature and how much what it meant to her, did for her as a person, helping her to center herself every day. So yes, as Johnson said, she was a soft inside. Odette would be known to just call up a friend. Me, sometimes. Nikki, what you doing there? You have something to eat? All right, so come in. Next thing, she shows up with food or drinks or whatever it is, and we either sit together and eat, or if she's busy, she say, I bring that for you, and she's gone. Just like that. And I'm not the only person she's done that with. I can tell you, Tricia and Orisha could probably testify to that as well. She just, it's as if sometimes she senses when, as a friend needs a friend, but she can't stay. She knows that you probably need some emotional support at this point in time, for whatever reason. And she just shows up, does her bit, and moves again. She doesn't want anybody, how do I say this? She doesn't want you to feel beholden to her.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But she doesn't want anyone's pity.
Yes, that too. She never wanted you to pity her. So if she was in a place where she was not feeling comfortable or safe, the gloves came on, because she's going to doesn't want you to feel sorry for her. She was, I guess we can say, in her mind, in her world, larger than life, in a sense. In a sense.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's part of who she was. But that was not all she was.
And she loved flowers, right? Yes. Goodness.
Kenroy, if you allow me.
Love flowers. So you saying something? Go ahead.
Understood and accepted her own fragility. And she knew, and I noticed we've been talking a lot in the present tense tonight, as though she still is. She quite understood her own fragility, that she was human. And as human, we all have the weaknesses, and she understood that. And she knew she was fragile. Part of the facade that I talked about is that she too had her moments when she would cry.
Yeah.
But you can't know that, would you? Because she's your leader. She's taking you along. So you can't see her cry. You can't even know that she too is as fragile as you are. But that she understood and accepted well.
Yes. All right, so we're going to open the phone line right now, 440-1252. Feel free to call and chime in. We're talking Odette Campbell. We are remembering her life and honoring her legacy. Derek James, so you saw a lot of the toughness coming across from her. Did you see the softer side?
Well, I knowing Odette, she could be tough, but she was like a teddy bear, soft. And one of the greatest assets to me with Odette is her ability to empower people, to give the people the ability to do what they should do. I know a lot of times that she passed on my information to her workers. If you want anything in the diaspora, call Derek. And not Odette calling me because we are friends and so on. And that I think that she had, and I think a lot of the workers will say, even recently, Joseph said to me, that's what Odette will call you. If you have any information you want, just call her, and she will get it. So the relationship that I had with Odette was not one that Nicole and Tricia is sharing because they worked with her. But our our relationship was more friends and love and so on with each other. You know, one regret I have though with Odette is that she always in the last couple of months begged me to come, let's go to lunch. Never got the opportunity. And I always think about that. Why not? She said, come to GBN, just come anytime and we go to lunch. We never got the opportunity to do that in the last couple of months.
We have a caller online. Good evening. Welcome to the special edition of Beyond the Headlines.
Yes, hi. Good evening. How are you?
Good, very well.
Good. Good night. My name is Zephyr McLeod, and I'm calling from New York. Odette was one of my special friends. I remember Odette having me travel for the first time on an airplane from Grenada to Barbados, and from Barbados to St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Parikou. We went to Trinidad, and we went around. Our goal was to actually travel around the Caribbean. We were playing sports in terms of Christian standpoint, and we wanted to make sure that the youths of Grenada were able to mingle with other youths, and that is like-minded around the Caribbean, and that was our goal back in the 80s, and we did that. And every year around the Carnival time, around the Easter time, around the time when there's a long break, we will go out for a long weekend and just, and come back. And we never stopped being friends. Just before, a couple of days before she died, I spoke to her, and we were talking, and we were reminiscing about the old times. But, she was a strong woman, because she never even mentioned, I did not know she was sick. She never mentioned it. We talked so good about everything. We talked about, even the concert that we just had. We spoke about that. She never even mentioned that she was in New York. I did not know until the day that she died. So she was a proud woman. She was a woman of, that she just didn't want us, I guess, to see her in the light of, being sick and being, in that kind of position. But I thank God for Odette, because she taught me a lot of stuff. She helped me prepare for even what I'm doing right now, because she was there, and we stuck together, we did things together, and she helped me even with this concert. Didn't even know that she was sick. So even in her on her deathbed, she was still a friend, and that's the kind of person that Odette was. And I really thank God for Odette. She's been she's been a really, really, really good friend of mine. And we're going to miss her. But one thing that I know, and one thing I want Grenada and the world to take away from this, Odette loved God. She loved Jesus. She knew him as a personal savior, and she lived for him. She lived for what she believed, and she died knowing that she's going to see Jesus someday. So if you're going to take anything away from this, just know that, have your soul right and prepared to meet your maker, because I think she was, and I know she was. So even right before, a couple of days before, we were talking, and she texted me back, and and we were just laughing about knowing Jesus, for who we are and what we're doing right now. So Grenada, you have one of the gem, a beautiful woman, and we're going to let her legacy keep going. We're going to know that Jesus is Lord, and we're going to exalt him in this nation. All right? God bless you guys, and it's a good program. I'm listening here from New York. God bless you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for chiming in. Tricia and Orisha, I want to get from you advice that Odette offered you both, which you really appreciate, which you apply along your journey.
Well, even after I left GBN, Kenroy, Odette still had my back, and she continued to be one of my many mentors. I currently do a newscast here in Florida, radio on CRR-FM. And Odette would reach out to me and inquire about certain news stories that are happening here and regionally, and also give me a few pointers now and again. Yes, she still did that. And when I do make a mistake, she would, of course, give me a tongue lashing. She's always there. She's always there for me. every morning on my way to work, she was the passenger in my vehicle. We will call each other every single morning. When I do not hear Odette, I know something is wrong and I need to call out to someone else to ask, how is Odette today? Is she okay? The last I heard from Odette was last Wednesday, before she passed. And one of the many things she always tell me, and I try to take it, even though sometimes I'm a little bit like her. I'm a workaholic. I work 24/7. I come home and the work is on my mind, and I will still go on the computer and, and get things done. I remember Orisha and I would be working sometimes 7 days a week because we'll go around the island on the weekend just to gather stories to produce. So she has that effect on me, and she tried to guide me and tell me, please remember to make time for your family. Remember to make time for your friends. Stop working. And guess what? Up to Odette passing away, she didn't practice what she preached at all. Because
I was just about to say that because she worked through her illness.
Yeah. She didn't practice what she preached at all. She passed away with the boots on. She was still trying to help out Janelle and others, trying to still, have a mark there in the newsroom. She wants to still do all the things, that her heart tells her that she could do. And that's the part that amazes me. She tells me, you need to do this. Oh, stop beating up yourself with the job and stop doing this. But look at that. Look at that. A living example of a woman who is determined, who will get anything done, cost it what it will.
All right, so we'll get to Orisha in a moment. We have a caller online at this time. Okay, caller, feel free to call back. Feel free. All right, Orisha, take 30 seconds. Advice given to you.
One of the things that I really took from Odette is to be accountable for myself. She will always tell, when I was working in GBN, she will say at the end of the day, Orisha, I do not care what shaky shots you got. I do not care that the van wasn't working, the person wasn't there when you didn't go out, whatever the case is. She said, when you sign out from the news, you're signing out as Orisha Joseph reporting for GBN News at the time, and nobody else. And at the end of the day, it is your character and your reputation that is on the line. So always do your work with pride, always take accountability for getting things done, and try not to leave things in the hands of others, because it's so important that at the end of the day, you are the one that is standing and you're the one that should be responsible. And that for me was very important today that I lead an organization.
Yes. Johnson John Rose, having interfaced with Odette at your level, her work ethics stands out quite a bit. Individuals I've spoken with have said, well, Tricia said she was a workaholic, but relative to the way she pursued her craft, the commitment. But before you do, we have a call online. We'll come back to you in a moment. Let's go to the phone line. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Not bad at all. Thanks for calling.
So this is Debbie, the sister of Tricia. I would like to make a correction on what she said. Usually, my sister will call me every morning on her way to work. And when I see a certain time that she didn't call, I know that she is speaking to Odette. I know my sister had a special, special love for Odette, and I know she's going to miss her. Have a good night.
Wow. Thank you, caller. Thank you so very much. talk about that one. Let's go back to Johnson. Johnson, the work ethic of Odette Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you some examples. As the communications person at the Caribbean Tourism Organization, I was largely responsible for media who would attend the CTO events, and Odette was almost always one of the first that would be on the list of people that you invite to it. And we would go to functions, and she's always pushing. She's not just covering a conference. She isn't there just sitting and listening to speakers talk and hear what they have to say and whether it's what to say. But she always looked for the other story outside of that. The other interview. The interview with this person who spoke that everybody listened to, but there is something he or she didn't say that she wants to get out of it. And the day ends at 6 o'clock, 7, 8, sometimes o'clock. Then Odette begins to write, and she begins to put the pieces together because she wants to make sure that the piece gets back to the GBN by the end of the night, so they've got something with which to work. So it was get the job done first before she goes to dinner. And if she's got to skip dinner, she would skip dinner to get it done. That was part of the work ethic that she pushed. But you mentioned work ethic, but there is this other word, ethics, as well, because that too was part of what she was. So the ethics as a journalist, it was really prime for her. She had that, understood what journalism ethics were, and wouldn't bend, as most people have said here tonight. And she was really stubborn, wasn't she? But when it came to the ethics, she stood her ground, and that's one of the other things that you really did have to admire about her. Would not relent, wouldn't bend. It didn't matter whether it was the Prime Minister of Grenada or the head of or whoever it was. She was not going to relent, she was not going to bend, she was not going to give in when it came to ethics. So she had good work ethic and very strong journalism ethics.
We have a caller online. We'll go to Nicole after. Caller, good evening. Feel free to call back, feel free, because we recognize some of you may be calling on your cell phone. So, of course, we are very conscious of that. All right, so Nicole, you want to add something here?
I wanted to add to what Johnson said about her work ethic and the fact that she didn't care whether in plying her craft, the Prime Minister was offended or the King of England was offended. I remember on occasions, 2 occasions. One, I think it was the teachers, they were protesting, and they started at PWU building. It's Teachers of Public Workers. Anyway, there was a protest,
okay,
a march.
The caller is back.
Okay.
Do you remember your thought?
Sure, of course.
Okay, so the caller is back. Hello, welcome. You're live, go ahead. Caller, are you there?
Hello, good evening.
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening. I really have to call tonight. Actually, I'm really just listening on and reminiscing on a number of the experiences that I have with Odette. And I have to say, she was a sister to me. I'm Ruth Roberts. And I remember when my mom passed in 2020, her mom had passed not too long before, but she came and she stood with us. She was the chairperson for the funeral. She hugged us. She told us, really encouraging words. And in a way, my experience with her was like she always was there. I didn't get the other side of her. I had the side. She was always caring. She would call me up and say, Ruth, I need you to do this. You need to come. I was in GBN. I was doing this and that. And it was so, she believed in me, especially in the area of media, even more than I believed in myself. And she really helped me to grow. And she always said, Ruth, you can do it, you can do it. Come, I'll let you do this or do that. And, and as I'm just hearing everybody talking, I just want to say, this person, Odette Campbell, was a sister to all of my sisters and a really strong supporter of my family and for me personally in the media. And the last one of the messages that she sent for me on my birthday, she said, wherever you go, the overflow will follow. Try me in this, said the Lord, and see if I will not pour out a blessing to you that you will not have room to contain it. And I said, girl, how are you doing? And she said, I'm good, my love. And I just wanted to say, you know what, I celebrate this wonderful person. I celebrate her life. I celebrate her strength and her passion for media. And I really admire her. And I am so, blessed to have known her in this personal way. So I just wanted to add my voice. And I'm really enjoying hearing everybody say all that they're saying about her. So thank you.
Thank you, Ruth Roberts. So nice to hear from you. Nicole, you can continue.
Yeah, Ruth is right. Odette, I'm going to continue with what I was saying before, but Odette was always there for everyone, because even when my dad passed, she was there. She was there, the children, I think their graduation or something like that, she was there. She's just always making sure that her friends know that she's there. But I wanted to go back to the issue of her work ethic and not having no respect of persons, if I should put it that way. The first thing I was going to talk about was when there was that protest they marched from Lagoon Road to St. George's. During the march, the rains came down. The people didn't stop marching. We had to have the protest, the story of the protest in the midday news. The protest started in the morning. In the rain, Odette walked along with the people who were protesting, gathered her information, did her story live from the field, and then I had to go and collect her wet self and bring her back up to the office. There you talk about a woman who is serious about her work. Another occasion was when one of the tourism ministers called for a press conference. Odette decided to attend that press conference because she had some questions she wanted to pose to the Minister of Tourism then. And along, she went with Levi. Levi was the cameraman then. And in those days, they made you come to the room where they would have the press conferences, and you would sit there, and they would take their own sweet time. They said the press conference is 10 o'clock, and 11 o'clock, you're still waiting. I think Odette taught them a lesson that day because she led a walkout. As the minister came in, she and the other news reporters and so got up and left. Of course, they were not pleased, so they complained to the management, and I remember Odette having to sit down or be home or something like that for, she was... she had to go home, I think, for either 2 weeks or a month or whatever it is. That did not deter her. The next time they had a press conference, they sure didn't keep them waiting that long, though. Right. When she said she was going to do something, she would do it. And she said that if they're going to keep us waiting here, as soon as they walk in, we will walk out. And she led the walk out. Actually, that was the story that day.
She was headstrong, for sure.
She was.
Yes, and Derek, there are those among us who say, as one of the online guests said, she believed in people, nonetheless.
Odette cherished her friends. She cherished her friends and always will look out and call to find out how her friends doing. I remember she called while we were doing the programs. She called me one day and gave me an advice that I will hold close to my chest and never disclose it. It will take a lot for me to disclose it. An advice that, just basically look at your back. And I always will say thanks to her for that.
Orisha, on the fun side of Odette Campbell.
Yes. I think the audio went.
Testing 1, 2, 3. The audio went.
The audio is all right, Orisha. It's
okay. Now I'm hearing. Okay, great. Now I'm hearing. On the fun side of Odette was what I heard.
Yes.
Okay. Well, one, I think the most of the panel will remember. Did you guys remember when Odette planted vegetables in front of the office when we were opening GBN building? That was under the, remember, she went and she planted cabbage and she had all these vegetables. I remember we were like Levi and Diamond and Joseph and Tricia, all of us was like, what is Odette doing? But when we unveiled and opened the GBN building where it is now, everyone commented on the garden. And remember the Prime Minister at the time, Honorable Tillman Thomas, he was like, wow, who planted this garden next to the building? So she was that person, but I also want to say, I know we haven't touched on it, she also really loved her family a lot, her children and her husband. She was a real family person and she did all that she could for them. And also with Odette being fun and vibrant. Johnson, you said that when I came to St. Martin that I resemble Odette. Do you know that most people, when we out, they either think that I'm her sister or I'm her daughter, depending. To this day, on Union Island, when she came to one of our openings, all the people on the island, including the Minister for Finance, Camilo Gonzalez, he thought that was my mom. Everybody thought that was my mom. The way that we looked maybe and the way that we were behaving. And every time I will do something or say something, and I'm sure it's similar with Tricia, and she will say, Orisha, why are you behaving like Odette Campbell? She will say, Orisha, behave yourself. Why are you behaving like Odette Campbell? Listen, don't let me get on this table and start to dance to here. And so she was that type of very eclectic, fun, enthusiastic, energetic, wild, but wild in a good way. Wild in terms of I will go wherever the breeze blow, but I still have my compass and I know the direction I'm going. And that is what, but really planting that garden in front of GBN, I don't understand.
I remember that, Orisha, the planting of that garden for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. One evening I came to the news and I saw it. I was like, okay, there we have an agriculture session here now.
but that's what she did.
But
that was her passion.
Didn't she?
And actually, that's one of the things that
I recall many years ago when she'd invited me over to Grenada to help her with some stuff, and went there and took me to her home, and she was still building. It wasn't quite complete back then, and took me to the back garden. And there she is with all these vegetables that she's growing and all this stuff. So she did love that as well. She could get her hands dirty, literally, and didn't mind it at all. So that was all part of the complete Odette. She was quite a mishmash of characters all into one that you asked a little bit earlier whether you love her and hate her at the same time. Yes. You love to hit her. It was that sort of character because she was highly professional. She was incredibly serious. She was an impossible amount of fun. She was everything, different times, this mishmash, and you never really knew which one you were going to get at what time. But whenever you got it, you got it. And that was, I think, part and parcel of who she was, and her DNA, and so she raised you. We talked about her humanity sometime earlier, and you talk about how she looked out for people. She made you, in the case of Orisha and others, what she was. You became Odette Campbell, didn't you? In one way or another, you became Odette Campbell when you mixed with her.
Going back to the vegetables. Remember too that Odette turned that into a business.
Yep.
She used to sell to one of the hotels down Grand Dance area. Yes. And also she reared chickens. Remember that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yes. So she was also not only business media wise, but she loved agriculture.
As a matter,
and going back to the fun, Odette was just fun. Her outgoing personality and sense of humor, I would say, comes through sometimes, especially when she's proud of one of her accomplishments, whether it is a newscast or the program. She took time to celebrate those things. And that woman, she could talk real nonsense sometimes.
Yes.
Jokes. Sometimes the jokes were not even funny. But to make them good, I would just be laughing my head off. But it was not funny at all. Kenroy, she thought she was a song star. Oh my Lord, that girl think that she was the best thing after sliced bread in singing. But let's give Jackie's jacket. She had a lovely voice though.
Yes, she did.
She had amazing confidence.
I often encourage her to stay in the shower.
Yeah, and she could do the cross-eyed thing. Whenever she tells you something, you remember she would do get her eyes in the corner and be like, I tell you what I tell you. And then she would take her eyeballs and put it here and be like, get out of my office, please. I don't want to hear anything else. And then I'm like, Odette, you're crazy.
Nicole, go ahead.
I was saying that two of the things that were raised, the fact that you didn't know which Odette you were getting on any given day. And Tricia spoke about her selling produce to the hotel occasion, because it's not just a hotel, she sold produce to MNIB as well. And I remember on occasion, if she's running late, let's say she's got a meeting early in the morning or she has to do something, she's running late, I get here, I take her car, because the produce is in her car, and I go and I sell that for her and come back. That's the kind of relationship that we had.
Right.
She also encouraged me, and I'm thankful to her for that, I must say. Just listening to them now reminded me. She also encouraged me to do produce around my house and sell, and that helped me get my children through school as well. But going to the fun-loving side of Odette, I remember on occasion, we would be so bogged down with work here and probably just a bit frustrated because things are not going the way we had planned it. And Odette would say, come, let's go. We leave here, we go. There was one occasion, I can't remember what happened, but we were both livid. We came out of a meeting and we were both livid because whatever it was that transpired in the meeting, we just figured that that was not the right outcome. And I guess it's because it's not the outcome we wanted. And we mulled over it all day. And then just around lunchtime, we got up and we left. We left in my car. We went to the beach. I sat on the sand and I said, I'm just going to stay here in the sand and cool out. We were talking and, just going over the whole situation with that outcome that we didn't like. And my girl just got up and decided sitting on the sand and talking about it was not working for her. She's going for a swim. This is the middle of the day and we were supposed to be at work, right? She changed, went for a swim, probably swam for about half an hour or so, came back, changed, and said, I feel better now. Let's go back to work. And that was the kind of spontaneity that you could expect from her any given time. And that's one of the fun things I can remember doing with her. Of course, we did quite a lot of fun things because we would be, as I said earlier, we would be at each other's houses. We would share meals together. We would cook together, cook for each other. Sometimes if she's busy, I go home and I cook. So when she's finished with news or whatever, either I bring the food to her house or she comes to my house. We have food together or we take the food, whatever. We would just... You couldn't tell from one day to another what we're going to be up to next. And those are some of the things that I would remember and cherish about Odette.
Mm-hmm. Derek James, as part of my observations of Odette Campbell, I observed her as chief cook and bottle washer. even here at the Grenada Broadcasting Network, that even though she was the managing director, she was not afraid or open to doing menial tasks in the operation of the network. And that moved me a great deal. She demonstrated that fervor to get things done.
I've seen that a lot when we were doing the programs together, when we were coordinating. She would get the names, put things together. I would send her some questions, and then you see she will get into the nitty-gritty of the things instead of having somebody else do it for her. And I observed that a lot. In fact, even went to get somebody, if she couldn't get a technician to put it on Facebook, she would do it from home. She would not wait. And that's why I see a lot of the different embassies and consulates, when they have an independence church service and so on, most of them will call me to talk to Odette to get it on the program for her to put on the radio station. So she had the hands-on to get things done. And sometimes you wonder how people will look at Odette's legacy, what you take away from Odette. And I think it's something that we all have to look at about the human being, the era in which she as a woman was managing this radio station, the television station, what she has done. We have to look, as we said a lot of the things tonight about some of the things that she did that some people did not like, but we have to take away the positive. We got to concentrate on the positive things that she has done for us, because she made us better. She made this station better. She has contributed to the development of this radio station. And so we must say thanks to her for her role on this stage.
And in a nutshell, what would you most remember about her before we go to a break?
I always remember her ability to connect, to ask questions, to get advice. I will always remember that. It's not just about how she sees it, but she wants the advice. How she will approach this program, what questions she could approach, and so on. In fact, sometimes even during the programs, I would send a text. She would send me back text. I want certain things that she would like to clarification on and so on. So I will always remember her for that. Yes. And anytime I see beyond the headlines, I always remember Odette. Now, if you look at all the pictures, you see Odette is a different feature all the time.
All the time, all the time. It was a critical part of this production, for sure. All right, so we have one other caller this time, and we have to take a break and come back for the rest of the thoughts of the other panelists. Caller, you're live.
Good night, everyone. Mom, I hope you probably still got the voice already.
Oh my goodness.
But I would like to say that, Mom, this is a public apology. That I am sorry for the name that Nathan and I would have given to you. But now, listening to all the different things about Auntie Odette, listening to Kenroy and Auntie Tricia and the others, it's bringing back so much memories. And the reason why I'm apologizing is because everything that happened for a reason. And I must say that I know Auntie Tricia would remember Nathan and I running around the compound, and it's not because we just got up and ran out your offices, because someone came to find out if we're finished doing our homework and told us, okay, come, let's go by Uncle Heinz and look for a cartoon, or let's go get Mom ready for the news report later or the newscast later. And yes, Nathan and I would have called you something, but now that I'm looking back at it, it was never that. It was more of, we had a second mother who filled that role, not to push you out of the way, but to give you a chance for you to build yourself, and she took care of us as you would have taken care of her children. So, Mom, I love you, and I'm appreciative of what you did, and I also love Auntie Odette and for what she did for our family.
That's deep. Deep. Oh my word.
I could not have said it any better. I told you, I asked them before I came on set, what are some of the things they remember? And I know you say you have to go to a break. So when we come back, I'll tell you what Nathan said.
For sure. And we'll get the closing thoughts. Panelists online, I want to ask you when we come back, of course, what would you remember most about Odette Campbell? Beyond the Headlines special, we're live from the Grenadian capital. Back in a moment.
Do you have muscular pain that no one can find a solution for? Are you tired of taking meds for joint and other pains? Hills and Valley Medicare Center on Grenville Street, St. George is here to help you heal. We will help you map a path to your full recovery. Visit us Monday to Saturday for a consultation with our on-site doctor, physiotherapist, and massage team. You will be glad you did. Our Medicare Center, a proud member of the Hills and Valley group of companies. On the hilltop or in the valley, we are with you wherever life takes you. Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Your health is our business.
From the farm to the store to your home. Supporting farmers, catering for your needs. The Food Fair Supermarket provides fresh fruits and vegetables from its 2 convenient locations for over 5 decades. The Food Fair Supermarkets, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
We're back here on this special edition of Beyond the Headlines. We're on the home stretch. We are literally remembering the life and honoring the legacy of Odette Campbell. So, Nicole, I have to ask you and the rest of the guests, what would you remember most about Odette?
That's a difficult question to answer. I was hoping you'd ask me that last. Simply because we spent so much time together. And what would I remember most about her? I would remember most about her energy, her vivaciousness, her love. She had a whole lot of it. Unfiltered, raw. She was a raw, how you call it, a diamond in the rough? Yes. That was how her love was. So I would remember that about her. And as you heard Nicholas say, she was his second mother, and Nathan, my other son's second mother. Before I came on set, well, earlier today, I messaged them and I asked them, what do you remember most about Auntie Odette? And Nathan said he remembers spending summer days at her house and playing with her children. And he also remembers her bringing him onto the morning and the late night radioactive youth program, because Nathan used to be on that program along with Odette's daughter, that's Krista. Right. And Nicholas, he said that he remembers going with the family to Annandale Water Treatment Plant, which is where Odette's husband used to work, and then from there going to the waterfall. So that was a fantastic outing that he remembers and he would keep with him, I guess, along with the other things that he said. So yes, I remember her. I would remember her being a very large person, a large personality, a large heart.
Yes. Tricia, what would you remember most about Odette Campbell?
Just Odette being my friend, a mentor, remembering how she had helped me in recognizing my full potential and growing as a professional. I would like to give an example here. I'm from Hermitage, and for some of us in that part of the island, pronunciation of certain words were a bit problematic. For me, especially the E's and the I's were the hardest for me. I can recall a number of established journalists said that I was an embarrassment and Odette should take me off television. I was not fitted for anchoring the television news because I was speaking bad, so to speak. It was then that Odette spoke to the great Leslie Pierre, who took me under his wings and taught me how to read and pronounce my word correctly. You see, she took the time to help me, to motivate me, and mentor the boomers like me. She raised the bar by ensuring that I was trained and others were trained. And for that, I am privileged and honored to have worked alongside Odette. I will really, really miss her.
I know you will. Orisha.
For me, I will remember her. I will remember her smile. I will remember her dimple. I will remember the love that she had for her husband and her children, the love she had for God, how she loved me like her own daughter, how she cared for people who she really loved and wanted to see grow. And that's it. I think I would just remember her. I will remember her. Just Odette Campbell, Odie.
Odie. Johnson.
There was a personality that in its own way was larger than life. Nicole mentioned vivacious, mentioned joie de vivre that she had. But there was this just wonderful personality. As a professional, you got to recall, as everyone has spoken about, all she's done for everyone who worked with her. But Odette was committed to her country. She was exceptionally committed to her country. And whatever she did because she wanted to see better for her country. And that meant developing human resource. If it meant getting the story out there, you've got to remember her for that. And on the personal, I recall many years ago, my children were still quite young. And we're having a conversation about, I'm always busy, I'm always doing things. And she said to me, I'll never forget as a child, my dad took me out to the beach, he took me out to places, and those are the memories that I always had, she said. And I think you should just take some time, get the children out. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to book a ticket, fly we all flew to Grenada. She met us, took us around, spent a few days there, and this has been one of the loveliest memories for both of my children to this very day, although they're much grown up now. So there's just so much really to remember when it's professional.
Okay. Nicole, you wish to read something briefly?
Yeah, I know this is not a family show, right? But my children, it's good that as young men, they're actually talking about their feelings. And my son in Cuba wanted me to say that, and I'm going to read it as he has it here. When I thought that the robotics competition wasn't getting coverage, and he was into that competition, and it was a week before we left, I called you, I was in Barbados, and you told me to speak to her. That's how I got the spot on the morning radio program with the robotics. Then he says, I remember when I had Bring and Buy sale at his school, SDA school, and you were reading the midday news, and I passed to meet you. While I was sitting watching you reading, she came and stole me from the radio booth and brought me to her office to eat and play games. You were most annoyed. That's what he says. But I guess those are memories that they will cherish for a very, very long time.
The memories are alive. Wow, what a conversation. Listen, you know what I appreciate about you all here as guests? You've been brutally honest. You've presented the various sides of Odette Campbell. You've made sense of your experiences with her, and I appreciate that. What a delight. Nicole Humphrey Best, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Kenroy.
Good to see you. Derek James, thank you so very much. And thank you for all that you've done for Grenada.
Thank you.
All that you continue to do.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to express my sympathy to all of Odette family, her friends, and all of us in the diaspora. I want to say how much we appreciated what she did for us. Thank you.
Indeed. Those of you via Zoom, Tricia Campbell, so nice to see you.
Same here, Kenroy.
Yes,
it's a pleasure.
Yes. I know oftentimes when you come to Grenada, for example, you always make a stop at GBN.
And I will make one again.
Okay. Orisha Joseph, Ori, nice to see you as well.
Oh, she used to call me Ori.
Yes, Odette used to call her Ori.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's always good to see the GBN family and Kenroy and just everybody. And I know she's with us. She is with us, her spirit. Her spirit can never leave this place.
And John Rose, thank you, sir, for spending the time with us. We value your presence and contribution.
Well, most certainly, and I was saying to Orisha before the show began that, Odette brought us together in her life. I got to know Nicole because of Odette, through Odette as well. So Tricia is the only one I didn't get to know. But Odette brought us together in life, and she's brought us together again in death. It's good to see you all.
Yes.
It's good to see you,
Johnson.
Yes. Ladies and gents, thank you all. That's our show this time around, this special edition of Beyond the Headlines, remembering the life and honoring the legacy of Odette Campbell, former Managing Director of the Grenada Broadcasting Network. That's it for now.
For life, I raise a toast to all of Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique, wherever you're in the world, following Beyond the Headlines. And to those of us who've made it, let's celebrate life. To those of you who lost your loved ones, we continue to empathize, sympathize with you, and pray for God's grace and His blessing over your lives, your loved ones, and your families. So long for now. We'll see you again next week on another edition of Beyond the Headlines. I'm Odette Campbell.
We will miss her dearly, but we take solace